Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be back. It's nice to be alive. Stay safe, everyone. So I will be discussing about what you are going to prepare in your chapter one. Prior to this one, I will give you a very concrete example of chapter one, chapter two, and chapter three. But I will just go. But we will just discuss the chapter 1 first, then we'll go to chapter 2 and chapter 3. So once again, I am your instructor, Nathaniel F. Bangkok II. Okay, so the parts of your chapter 1 are as follows. So you have your introduction, you have your statement of the problem, or your research objective. But in Ramon Magsaysay, we use the term statement of the problem, and we have hypothesis or hypothesis. If your problem is quantitative or with correlation, then we will have theoretical or conceptual framework. Then significance of the study, the scope and the limitation, and the definition of terms. So each part, we will discuss it one by one, and if you are still confused or hindi nyo masyadong makuha ang ating discussion, anyway, refer lang kayo sa ibibigay ko na sample na galing pa din sa Ramon Magsaysay. Okay, for the introduction, it is important for us to establish the cognitive setting of your research. Saan pupunta ang research mo? Ano ang problema na nakita mo, bakit mo i-conduct ang research. It is also in the introduction wherein you would clarify important terminologies used in your study. And aside from that, degree of seriousness must be posted by the problem. Bakit kailangan natin siyang pag-aralan? For example, majority of you will undergo studies on online learning, parental involvement on online learning, challenges on online learning, kasi serious siya na problema or issue kasi nga lahat tayo or majority of us, lahat ng learners natin either online learning or modular learning. Lahat yan sila homeschooling siya. Wala man, bawal man tayo ng case to case, face to face rather. So normally, the parts of your introduction is 1 to 2 pages lang. Huwag nang masyadong pataasan. And in the introduction, it will be discussed ano ba yung importante ng inyong research problem, ano yung background ng inyong research problem, saan ito gagawin, or the setting of the research problem. Next, ano yung basic literature? When you say literature, it refers to the discussions found in the internet, found in the books, na foundation ng inyong study. Diba? According nga sa ating DepEd Secretary, education must continue regardless of the time, whether it's time of the pandemic or war. So, anong literature ang nagasuporta doon? Next, how serious is your chosen research problem? Then that's why in your introduction, it is very important for you to really discuss or to give a concrete example of concrete data. Mas maganda kung detailed siya na for example sa isang paaralan, lahat sila nahihirapan sa online. Ano ang basis mo dyan? Pwedeng galing sa guidance office or pwedeng galing mismo sa parents na nagatulong sa bata sa online learning. Next is, what is the general objective of your research problem? So normally, ito makikita ito siya yung general objective saka overall purpose ng iyong research problem in your concluding paragraph. So with the different discussions on online learning, it is imperative that the researchers will seek to find Ganun siya ng mga words. So huwag kayong mag-alala kasi in your example, meron talaga doon na example. Then of course, you can modify. Either qualitative or quantitative ang study mo, this will be the part of your chapter 1. So hindi pwedeng mawawala ang introduction. And remember, your introduction is good for 1 to 2 pages only. Next, anong sunod ng introduction? Of course, with your introduction comes next would be the statement of the problem. So yung statement of the problem would be the general problem of the study. Dito nyo hahanapin, for example, this study seek to find out, future tense muna tayo ha, seek to find out kasi nga proposal pa yung gagawin ninyo. The challenges of parents on online learning. I-present nyo na ang chapter 4 and 5 or your final defense na, mag-change na naman tayo into past tense. So the study sought to answer, past tense of seek. So in the specific details on the participants, setting, and period of time. So in this study, it will seek to find out the challenges of parents in online learning on Cariaga Mercado Elementary School for school year 2020-2021. Yan yung mangyayari po doon. Then, followed by the enumeration, it seek to answer the following problems. 1, ganun yun siya. So in the samples na ibibigay ko sa inyo, andun yung pasunod siya, pwede nyo siyang i-modify at pwede nyo din siyang gawing model. Then, specific problems should be stated as questions. Bakit? In order for us, because questions are meant to be answered. Ibig sabihin, yung mga specific na tanong ninyo, dapat hanapin natin ng solusyon. Next slide. Okay. Next slide, after the statement of the problem, would be the hypothesis na I or hypothesis na E. Pag isang hypothesis lang, I siya. Pag marami gani, it's in E form. So ano yung hypothesis? It is a tentative prediction about the relationship between two or more variables in a population under study. So it's research questions into prediction of expected outcomes. So in the hypothesis, meron yan siyang dalawang variables, the independent and the dependent variable. So normally, we use hypothesis in the quantitative research or in the mixed method. But in the qualitative method, we don't have hypothesis. Bakit? Kasi hindi pa man tayo makabigay ng prediction kasi nga our research will depend on the answers of the respondents. While in the quantitative, pwede tayong makapredict kasi magbibigay na tayo ahead of time ng independent at dependent variable. For example, learning environment would be your independent variable. Academic performance would be your dependent variable. Kung maganda ba ang lugar na pinag-aaralan ng bata, mas mataas ba ang grade na makuha niya? So that's the independent and dependent variable. Next, we will have simple hypothesis lang. It's predicting relationship between two variables. And we have two types of simple hypothesis na normally ginagamit natin. So in the null, we have two types. The first is the null hypothesis, and the second one is the alternative hypothesis. So in the null hypothesis, it is used for statistical analysis. So ibig sabihin, pag quantitative yung study mo, normally, meron ka talaga or it is recommended for you to have a null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis, hindi natin ito masyadong ginagamit. But for the education sa Ramon Magsaysay, we use null hypothesis. So it is expressed in negative statement. And of course, after the result of your study, whether we accept it or reject it, it will be based on the result of your study. For example, there is no relationship between the learning environment and academic performance of learners. That's a null hypothesis. Pag reverse naman natin siya, and we use to affirm something that is happening, and we express it in a positive statement, that is already your alternative hypothesis. So kanina, we stated it in the null hypothesis. How will we state it in alternative hypothesis? We will say, there is a relationship between learning environment and academic performance. Kuha nyo? Ang null hypothesis is expressed in negative statement, while alternative hypothesis is expressed in positive statement. Next, we have also next after your hypothesis is your theoretical and conceptual framework. This one is very important because it gives support or enclose into something, or it gives support to your study. That is what you call a framework. So pag concept and theories, this serves as building blocks for the foundation or the basis of your study. So it is very important for us to check ano ba yung mga theories na nag-support na although in times of pandemic, dapat talaga mag-umpisa na ang klase. Or in times of pandemic, dapat talaga education must continue. Or in times of pandemic or in education, bakit mahalaga ang support ng parents. So dapat doon sa theoretical framework ninyo, makita doon ang mga different theories na nag-support sa inyong study. So, one or two theories na pwede nyong ma-align sa inyong study, maganda na yun na theoretical framework. So, in your theoretical framework, pwede kayo maka-formulate from an existing theory. Kasi hindi man tayo theorist. Mahirap magawa ng sarili nating theory. So, fully adapt, pwede tayong fully adapt na old. Ibig sabihin, for example, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Diba ang pinakataas sa Maslow is tama ba ako is self-actualization. So pwede natin yung ma-adapt siya na in total, or pwede nating adapt na adapted, pwede nating mag-adapt lang ng isang line lang or two lines doon sa theory ni Maslow. Na kailangan ng education kasi not just for self-actualization, pero kasi kailangan siya for future references or for future na innovations or endeavors. So, theory is a conceptual idea that is used to describe, explain, predict, or understand a certain phenomenon. So, education in the pandemic time is a phenomenon kasi bago siya. Hindi ito fun. Then, modular learning and online learning is a phenomenon. Bakit? Kasi hindi siya ang regular na ginagawa natin. Ano ba yung regular na ginagawa natin sa school? We have our face-to-face interaction. Ang bata pupunta sa school, makikinig kay teacher, si teacher naman magiging guide sa mga bata. That's a normal situation. But in a certain phenomenon, kasi nga nagkaroon tayo ng changes, kasi nga nagkaroon ng pandemic, pumasok si COVID-19, then marami tayong theories na pwedeng maibigay. Bakit in times of pandemic, kailangan pa din education must continue. Next, in your conceptual framework, it is based or formulated from the different theories that you have gathered. It is an intellectual synthesis or generalization of your various readings, while it guides and set clear directions on what to do. For example, meron ditong may mga samples doon, meron akong mga samples mamaya sa slides natin, at kung hindi masyadong klaro, meron din tayong concrete samples sa ibibigay ko na sample na study na pwede nyo nang gawin. Remember, may pagkakaiba ang qualitative at quantitative. Kasi ang quantitative, normally, pag independent sa dependent variable, iba din yung framework niya. Pero pag meron siyang process along the way, iba din yung type ng framework na gagawin natin. Mamaya i-discuss ko yun isa-isa. So, a paradigm is a diagrammatic presentation of your study. Ibig sabihin, it is an illustration on how you will conduct or how you will do your study within the given time. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng outline defense, tinatanong ko sa inyo, who will be your respondents? How will you conduct this study? What will be your parameters? Ganun yung mangyayari ng ating study. Okay. So the conceptual framework, actually, dalawa lang yung ibibigay ko sa inyo. Common paradigms natin. So we have the input process, output model, or the IPO. It isolates the variables that causes the problems. So, pwedeng dalawa siya. Ito siya is conceptual framework siya na ang input niya una would be, ito siyang the reading habit of the BEd students, at i-correlate mo siya sa academic performance. Anong process ang gagawin mo? Analysis. Kasi mixed method yung ginamit niya. Mixed method kasi merong questionnaire, nag-ask siya ng questionnaire, pasagot siya sa mga bata. But since tayo ngayon, wala tayong face-to-face, ibig sabihin, your questionnaire will be in Google Forms. Ibig sabihin, online sasagot ang mga bata. Next, if gusto mo talagang makita kung ano yung, kung gusto mong masuportahan ng words ang numbers mo, then you do interviews. And of course, you have your statistical treatment with you. Ano yung output ng iyong study? It will be a whole school reading program. Next, this is common. Ito yung malimit nyo na makita sa mga thesis natin dito sa school. We have the independent variable and the dependent variable model. So, classified as situation relating. So, bakit situation relating siya? Kasi one variable, the independent variable, influences or has a relationship with another variable, which is your dependent variable. Kaya we have the independent variable, dependent variable model. So, the independent, siyempre mauna ang independent. Kasi nga, gina-influence niya si dependent. Hindi pwedeng mauna si dependent kay wala man siyang influence sa independent. Siya man ang gina-influence ni independent variable. So, in this framework, our independent variable would be the reading habits of the students, and our dependent variable would be academic performance. Kung maganda ba kung may structured reading habits ba ang mga BEd students, mataas ang kanilang academic performance. Ganun po yung illustration niya. Okay, next. After your conceptual framework and we have your significance of the study. So in the significance of the study, it is imperative for us to identify sino ang maka-gain ng ating study, who will be the beneficiaries, ano ang makuha nila or benefits of the study. Ay, hindi sir, kay mag-aral lang, nag-conduct na ako ng study ko sir, just for the sake na makapasa. No. We will have your study or we will conduct your thesis in order for us to help others. So, kasi nga, research is time-consuming, but it's a worthwhile undertaking kasi may natutulungan tayo. So, in your significance of the study, it is very important for us to identify sino yung makikinabang sa ating study. So, ang pasunod nito would be from the most benefited to the least benefited. For example, balik tayo dito sa ating reading habits of DED students and academic performance. Sa palagay ninyo, sino ba ang pinaka makagamit ng resulta na ito? Kasi remember, your one would be the academic performance. Sino siya? Sino ang makaka-benefits ng ating study? So of course, you have your program director. Kasi matitingnan niya kung may study habits ba ang mga bata. Ano ang pwede niyang gawin in order para ma-help or ma-enhance pa yung may study habits at matulungan niya yung walang study habits. Second, aside from the program director, sino pa? You have the students mismo. Ano ang benefits nito sa kanila? Ma-identify nila, ay, wala pala akong practice na study habits, dapat pala meron. Then the researchers, kayo mismo, ano ang magiging silbi ito sa inyo? And of course, sa other researchers. Ano ang magiging silbi ng other researchers? Pwede pa kayong magdagdag. For example, kung i-conduct nyo ito sa isang public institution, kung halimbawa, reading habits of grade 6. So, pwedeng isalin nyo dyan ang reading teachers, si principal, ang parents mismo, kasi para matulungan din nila ang kanilang mga bata paano ma-develop ang reading habits ng mga bata. Okay. For the structure, kung paano magsulat, mag-refer na lang kayo sa ibibigay ko na sample na study. It's not a perfect what's this one, pero pwede nyo siyang maging example or pwede nyo siyang maging gawing model para mas maka-improve nyo pa ang sarili nyo na study. Okay, next, scope and delimitation of the study. When you say scope, it refers to the coverage of your study. Hanggang saan na yung pag-aaralan mo. For example, ang learning environment lang yung pag-aaralan mo, pero specify mo talaga learning environment in home. Kasi wala naman tayong others na learning environment. Then pwede din learning environment, pwede mo siyang mas pailalimin pa. Learning environment to what? Health ba? Physical ba? Social ba? Or relationship ba within sa pamamahay? Pwede yung gawin mo scope. Next, the limitation is the boundaries of your study. Saan ka lang mag-limit? Sino lang ang pag-aaralan mo? Anong taon? Sino kaya? Hindi siya advisable. Meron kasi proposal na ang gusto niyang pag-aralan from first year to fourth year students. Hindi siya applicable. Bakit? Kasi iba-iba ng experiences ang first year hanggang fourth year. Si first year, nag-aumpisa pa lang. Si fourth year, papaalis na siya. Alam niya na ang pasikot-sikot. Marami na siyang characteristics or indicators na na-develop. Kaya, ilagay niyo talaga sa delimitation sino lang yung pag-aaralan ninyo, anong taon, taga saan, at major variables lang tayo. Kung wala sa major variables natin, huwag nating pag-aaralan. That's why very important ang scope and delimitation para hindi masyadong malaki yung scope ng study natin and at the same time, bounded tayo sa kung ano lang yung coverage ng ating study. And last, in your chapter 1, you have your definition of terms. Importante na i-define natin yung mga importanteng bagay na pag-aaralan natin sa ating study. Others, it is alphabetically arranged or sa iba, according to importance. So normally, for example, what do you mean when you say learning environment? What do you mean when you say academic performance? Pwedeng academic performance refer sa grades ng bata. Pwede din ang learning environment refer sa physical environment ng bata during class. Or learning environment, pwede din yan siya na learning environment refers to support of parents in the home during your lesson. Okay, so your definition of terms. Your definition of terms could either be conceptually or operationally. But in higher institutions or kahit dito sa Ramon Magsaysay, let's try to practice na i-define natin yung terms natin into two. When you say conceptually, galing siya sa books at dictionaries. So for example, learning environment is conceptually defined as, then ano yung definition na galing sa book? Tapos, close and open parenthesis, saan nyo kinuha ang definition? When you say naman operationally, paano nyo siya gigamit sa study? You could say, operationally, learning environment is defined as the relationship of the learner and the parent in the modular learning. Pwede siyang ganun. So, marami pa tayong pag-uusapan, but if you want to have a concrete example, please try to open yung ibibigay ko na example na tapos na na-study dito din sa Ramon Magsaysay. Again, it is not perfect, but you could use it as your model, as your reference in order for you to have one of the best or to make your study one of the best in your class or in our institution para maganda naman yung magiging resulta niya. So with that, babalik na naman ako with your chapter 2 and chapter 3. God bless everyone.